Welcome to the Ditch the Struggle podcast. I'm your host, Alana Rosso. I'm a graphic designer turned career and success coach who knew I could do better, but kept falling short of where I wanted to go. But after years of exploring personal and career development, business, money mindset, and energy work, I'm here to tell you that yes, you can move from stuck and defeated to empowered and confident. Ready to dive in? Awesome. Together, let's ditch the struggle. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. I have this concept today that I really want to share because I didn't figure this concept out till I think a couple of years ago, and it's from a free ebook. And then it relates to, I don't know, I think it's really good for the new year and like anytime you want to purge or start something fresh. I definitely know that over the holidays at Christmas, and I know other people that do this as well. I start clearing stuff out, just preparing for the new year. Just getting rid of things. I'm generally someone who does love to purge, although I have over-purged and gotten rid of too much stuff. I think Marie Kondo steers us wrong in many ways. I think things cannot spark joy at certain times in our life and then later on spark joy, which has happened for me. So I have regretted throwing certain things out. But I do believe in minimizing, purging, streamlining, not having too much stuff. And I didn't really understand why I thought it was so important until I read this ebook. And I've read it multiple times. I'm going to read it again in the next few days. It is called The Game of Life and How to Play It. It is by Florence Scovel Shinn, and it is one of these old-timey books. She lived from 1871 to 1940, so it's kind of written in an older English style. It's in the vein of The Science of Getting Rich, if you have ever read that, or if you're into manifesting and prosperity consciousness and things like that. We're going to have lots of episodes diving into that because I have done tons of stuff on that and gone down all the rabbit holes, and I love it. Let me just give you a blurb about this book. And again, you can find this for free online. I'll make sure that I put a link into the show notes. But it just says on the cover of this book, with her classic bestseller, The Game of Life and How to Play It, Florence Scovel Shinn established herself as one of the most down-to-earth, practical, and helpful prosperity writers of her era, and was widely known as an artist, illustrator, metaphysician, and lecturer. So these are the type of books you read when you're trying to manifest, make things happen in your life. I think they're really helpful for getting out of struggle mode where a lot of struggle is thinking that nothing's really going to go our way and it's not going to happen. Things aren't going to just go our way and the things we want aren't happening. But they can and they will, just not usually in the timing that we want. But so I do really recommend this book. I've read it multiple times over the last, probably 20 years actually. I have a printed copy here. One of the jobs I had, I used to print out a whole bunch of ebooks while I worked there because we had just unlimited access to color printers. That was fun. Okay, so there was one thing, it's page 32 of the copy I have now. And what it talks about is something so interesting. It's called the law of use. And I had never heard about this. There's certain laws in the world, the law of attraction, the law of gravity. And we hear about these laws. And I do believe there are universal laws. But I had never heard of the law of use. And I'm going to just read this tiny little part of the story here so that you can understand the context here. So she's talking about a woman who was quite wealthy. And she says she was very fond of necklaces, and a friend once asked her how many she possessed. She replied 67. She bought them and put them away, carefully wrapped in tissue paper. Had she used the necklaces, it would have been quite legitimate, but she was violating the law of use. Her closets were filled with clothes she never wore and jewels which never saw the light. Okay, well, first of all, I can relate to this because I am a jewelry person. And I'm going to guess I have more than 67 necklaces, actually. I used to work in jewelry. But what I love about this little blurb is that it's the idea that we really should be using what we have. And not to say that we're always going to use what we have every single day, but letting things sit in closets that are just they're curled up in their wrapping in the dark, not being used, not being enjoyed. It has always felt not good to me. And I hate having things that I don't use. This is kind of triggers me. If I go into my closet and I'm seeing a lot of stuff that I don't wear, don't use, I actually do get anxious. And I think subconsciously, a lot of us are getting anxious about this. I don't think it's conscious for a lot of people. I think for me, it maybe stands out a little bit more for some reason, and maybe it does for you. But I think a lot of us are feeling weighed down by things that we have and that we are not using. And I think anyone who studies feng shui, which is the art of placement, would understand this concept. You really can't have clutter for a bunch of reasons, partly because the energy is not moving through. Like, for example, if you have a closet, having it crammed with stuff means nothing can kind of breathe. And every time you walk in there, you feel claustrophobic. Actually, I was just tidying up my office closet where I keep like supplies and everything. And I realized that every time I kind of opened it up, there was this one bag of stuff that was just annoying me, like barely consciously. Every time I walked into it, it was just like kind of in my way. And then I was like, I only use this bag of stuff certain times of the year. I'm going to move this to the basement and just get it out of the way because it's annoying me every time I go. And you don't want to have an overstuffed, any kind of closet, any type of space, anything that's overstuffed and overfilled is not going to feel good. Like, I'm sure everyone knows someone who's a little bit of a hoarder. And when you go to their place, do you feel calm and relaxed? No, absolutely. And so beyond that, the psychology of things feeling stressful, and then the feng shui aspect of energy not moving, there's this concept of the law of use. Whereas if we're not using things, things are being wasted and they're just like sadly sitting there. And I hate this feeling. And you know, what's interesting is I've just literally yesterday went and bought a secondhand spin bike for the exercise factor, but also because of some of the limitations I'm going through with my knee. And what was a really big hang up for me for not getting this spin bike for so long, which I really should have gotten a long time ago. Like, I'm totally off the trend. Everyone bought it in the 2020 era. Actually, I bought a secondhand one. So many are now being sold that no one used. They went crazy and bought one, and then they realized I'm not actually a Peloton user. I didn't actually get a Peloton. I got an Echelon. But I was really worried that I would buy it and then it would sit there. Like, you know, you see all these stories and hear people talk about the treadmill that becomes the clothing rack. And that made me so anxious. I was like, I can't buy this and spend the money on it and then it just sit there. And so I first had to trust myself that I would use it. And then I had to walk myself through, okay, if I end up not using it, which is pretty highly unlikely, I can sell it and I can get rid of it and someone else can use it that needs it, right? So, but I did realize that this is really the law of use that I was thinking about, and that feeling of like, oh, if I had this also a big physical thing, like it's pretty big, and not use it, that's going to feel crappy. And it's this reminder that I failed at not using it or not getting into shape, or just like I wasted money. I think that's always something that is in the back of most people's mind. But I don't want to have things that I'm not using. So I will routinely go through my jewelry all the time. I would say I probably do it like every 3 months to kind of make sure I know what I have, so that I'm using it and like pull things out. And then I give things away. Like, I have a friend's daughter who's like 12, 13 now. Perfect age to start kind of passing things on to her that I'm not wearing, making sure that it's being used. And I just really encourage you guys to think about this law of use. And if there's stuff sitting there, giving it to someone or selling it. And sometimes it's just such a pain in the ass to sell things online. And Facebook Marketplace is just like, I think transaction on FB Marketplace could be its own movie, like a full-length movie. They're so crazy sometimes. I do my best to just be a really simple person to deal with on that. So sometimes it's a pain in the butt to sell it, but getting rid of things and helping people use it, I think it frees up energy and space for us. And I think a lot of our struggles in life are having too much on our plates, too much to do, but also too much stuff. I mean, there are so many studies that explain how having less actually makes us happier. Now, I'm not saying get rid of it. Get rid of everything. I am not getting rid of my jewelry. That is something that I love. But I do stay conscious of what I have and try not to buy pieces that are in any way similar to what I already have. So I encourage you guys to think about this law of use, and how do you actually feel if you open up your closet, for example, and see 17 pairs of jeans, but you're actually only wearing 1 or 2 of them. They say that we wear 20% of our clothes 80% of the time. I'm a big fan of the whole 80-20 rule because I find it applies to most things. And I'd say that's very true. Like I do have stuff sitting in my closet that is from my corporate life that is kind of packed up, like a whole bunch of blazers and things that I'm really not interested in wearing. I haven't gotten rid of them all yet. I think I have more to do. I know that every time I pare things down, I feel better. I feel lighter. I feel like I can breathe. And I just feel happy when things are being used. So this little story is to encourage you to think about what's not being used and try and give it to someone who can actually use it. I know we get personally attached to stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not going with you. And I actually recently just lost this. It was like a kind of like a kilt pin, but it had a heart on it. And it was I probably got it when I was 5 years old from a family friend, and I loved it so much. Anyway, I had it on a jacket and I recently lost it maybe like 2 months ago. I have been really upset. It didn't have any monetary value. I've been pretty upset about it. But then I really have to just accept that it's just a thing. It doesn't mean that I'm not thinking about this person. And just a little bit let it go. Like I do think we have to practice a little bit of a healthy detachment from certain things. And just ask yourself, like when you look at that stack of 17 jeans, does it make you feel good? For some people it does. Like we are collectors. I think a lot of us are hardwired to be collectors. There was that crazy documentary on Netflix. It's all about Pez. I can't remember what it's called, but it's all about Pez collectors. Wild. So I know that humans like to collect things, but think about whether you are actually using the things. And if they're not, and they're sitting there, just consider this idea that you are violating the law of use. I know that sounds a bit dramatic, but I think we need a little bit of drama sometimes to kind of make us change the way we do things, how we look at things, and how we interact with our things. And start purging away. But again, you don't have to go crazy Marie Kondo because I think that's a bit extreme. I'm not folding underwear. That's not on my agenda. But if that's changed your life, that's great. But yeah, consider how many things you have, decide whether you can actually use it, and think of all of your stuff in terms of energy and how much energy it is taking for you to hold on to things, keep things, look at things, and if you would feel better letting it go. Take care, guys. Thank you for joining me today on Ditch the Struggle. You showing up here means so, so much to me. To dig deeper into the topics discussed today and to learn about my work, visit alanarosa.com. And don't forget to download your free resources while you're there. And if this episode resonated with you, please share with others who also want to ditch the struggle. Go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, leave a rating and a review, and let me know what you'd like to see more of on this podcast. And before I go, I want to leave you with my 3 favorite ways to ditch the struggle. Be your own best advocate, take baby steps for the win, and forget about a linear career path. It's overrated and you are doing just fine. See you next time.